Department of Homeland Security Secretary and cosplaying ICE Barbie Kristi Noem's sex scandal just landed in the headlines again. And if you're wondering how a woman as inept and unintelligent as Kristi Noem manages to keep her job, not to mention run one of the key Trump administration initiatives, stay tuned. It turns out there is a very odious reason why. This story deserves popcorn, not to mention possibly a cold shower. This is the David Reddish Show. Welcome to the show, brought to you, as always, by Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. And once again, I must give a shout out and my gratitude to Rachel and the fine people at SUNBEAM Vintage who helped supply me with my new anchor desk. It's beautiful, isn't it? If you love Art Deco or mid-century modern designs like I do, or if you just like wood furniture made of, actual wood and not substitutes, you're going to want to follow the link in the description to their online catalog. They can ship anywhere in the continental United States, so just tell them David Reddish sent you. All right, now, with that out of the way, let's get to our scandal. Kristi Noem remains one of the most visible and derided members of the Trump administration, and not just for gaslighting moments like these.
Your agent's going to comply
I know the White House has asked him to.
Sorry, with the federal order on Friday to not use chemical agents.
That federal order was a little ridiculous because that federal judge came down and told us we couldn't do what we already aren't doing. We
just saw video of chemical agents being used.
We only use those chemical agents when there's violence happening and perpetuating, and you need to be able to establish law and order to keep people safe.
If you feel like you just had your intelligence insulted, or that you were exposed to a highly contagious case of stupid, don't fret. It gets better, so stick around. Despite all the public outcry over the actions of ICE and Noem, one very peculiar, very shocking element of her tenure continues to fly slightly below the radar. Noem has some help from Corey Lewandowski, another Trump advisor who holds a rather nebulous special employee status. So what does he do? Well, according to NBC, he helps Noem keep her job. Check this out.
Also know Todd Lyons, the head of ICE, has threatened to quit on multiple occasions under this pressure to ramp up numbers, basically saying the reason we haven't been able to expand detention space has nothing to do with him as acting director, but more to do with Lewandowski and Noem's roles really having this outsized influence over the contracting process. So it sounds like a lot of finger pointing, gossip, drama within DHS. But what it comes down to is an administration really at odds with itself over whether or not it can come through on President Trump's key campaign promise and the leadership style of Noem and whether or not the White House continues to keep faith in her as the leader of DHS.
So maybe at this point you're wondering why the close alliance between Noem and Lewandowski? Well, it's been reported for years by journalists like Jonathan Karl and outlets like the New York Post and New York Magazine that the two are engaged in a long-time extramarital affair. Yes, both are married to other people, with kids no less. Stories abound about Lewandowski, who was one of Trump's 2024 campaign managers, demanding to have hotel rooms close to Noem, even when he was traveling with his family. And now, though both Noem and Lewandowski deny having an affair, not only has more evidence emerged suggesting that they are romantically involved, it looks like both of their jobs depend on it. The Daily Beast reports this morning that Noem has come into conflict with other members of the Trump administration over her refusal to distance herself or remove Lewandowski as her de facto chief of staff. Lewandowski also refuses to go away. The same story goes on to detail that Lewandowski is purposely lying about his hours. His special government employee status keeps him unpaid and limits him to 130 hours per year. Multiple sources, however, confirm he works far more than that, and that he, not Noem, is actually the architect of ICE and their current strategy. The article discusses an Axios reporter spotting Lewandowski standing at a gate at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport last week, discussing Department of Homeland Security contracts with Palantir. Lewandowski has never worked with Palantir. However, last year, the Wall Street Journal reported that Lewandowski had arranged for Noem to meet with Palantir and had told Department of Homeland Security officials to give the company additional work. Weeks later, the Department of Homeland Security updated an existing contract to give Palantir an additional $29.9 million. So, has ICE Barbie found her ICE Ken? It looks that way. But more importantly, as a special government employee, Lewandowski does not have to fill out financial disclosure forms. Ergo, all his private business deals remain unmonitored. And yet, it appears he's the one brokering government contracts for the Department of Homeland Security, which is exactly the kind of conflict of interest the law is designed to prevent. But what do you expect in the era of Donald Trump, who uses the presidency as an ATM machine and a reality show? It's corruption of the highest sort, not to mention a very gross coupling for all kinds of reasons. I mean, what's it look like when a lizard man and the woman who inspired the substance get intimate? Somebody get Ridley Scott on the phone. This could be the next Alien movie. This is the David Reddish Show.